Among a crowd of Arab men and children, a woman stands out with her confident demeanor. She wears a stylish leather jacket, fitted jeans, and holds a professional camera in her hands. Her smile is radiant, her eyes filled with passion, like a photojournalist seeking the most authentic moments of life. That woman's name is Patricia Roxboro, and this story is told through her lens, but it's all a carefully constructed facade. The name Patricia Roxboro is a lie, and the story she tells about her life is a meticulously crafted performance. Behind the camera lens, she is not an impartial journalist, but a Mossad agent, the notorious Israeli intelligence agency. Her real name is Sylvia Raphael, and she is one of the bravest and most intelligent female operatives to ever serve in its ranks. Sylvia Raphael lived in a world of secrets where the line between truth and deception was razor thin. She executed countless dangerous missions with exceptional skill, infiltrating the networks of Israel's enemies step by step. She succeeded for years until a small, unexpected detail exposed her identity. That fateful mistake not only ended her career, but also ignited a global scandal that shook the world. So how did an ordinary South African teacher become such a deadly operative? And did her life truly end in tragedy, or does it hold a hopeful conclusion? Let's explore the extraordinary and tragic journey of Sylvia Raphael, where women become invisible assassins. To understand Sylvia Raphael, we must step back and look at the institution that shaped her Mossad, one of the world's most secretive and formidable intelligence agencies. Even its name, the Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations, exudes mystery. Born from the bitter lessons of World War II and conflicts with the Arab world, Mossad was tasked with a singular paramount mission to protect Israel's existence at all costs. They operate in the shadows. Their budget and personnel numbers are closely guarded secrets. Their operations, whether triumphant or disastrous, are rarely disclosed. Their missions are diverse, ranging from thwarting terrorist threats and gathering intelligence to carrying out covert assassinations. For Mossad, war is not confined to battlefields, but seeps into every corner of civilian life, where agents are silent warriors who never reveal themselves. In this ruthless world of espionage, the role of female operatives is particularly crucial. They possess advantages that men could never have. A woman is less likely to arouse suspicion, can infiltrate sensitive areas with ease, and can approach targets that men struggle to reach. Their weapons are not always guns or knives, but often charm, intelligence, and the ability to read their adversary's psychology. They become warriors of the honey trap tactic, using their allure to gain trust, gather information, or neutralize targets. Jewish history has long demonstrated the power of women in warfare. From ancient times, the Bible recounts the story of Yael, an ordinary woman who lured Sisera, a Canaanite general, into her tent, gave him milk, and as he slept, drove a tent peg through his temple. Yael became a symbol of women's strength and cunning in defeating enemies, inspiring generations of female Mossad operatives, including Sylvia. A prime example of this tactic's effectiveness is the story of Cheryl Bentov, a Mossad agent known by the alias Cindy. Her mission was to seduce Mordecai Vanunu, a former Israeli nuclear technician who had leaked details of Israel's nuclear program to the press. Cheryl approached Vanunu in London, luring him to Rome with the promise of a romantic getaway. Upon arriving in Italy, Vanunu was kidnapped by a Mossad team and brought back to Israel for trial. The case became undeniable proof of Mossad's efficiency and ruthlessness. highlighting the pivotal role women play in their most complex operations. Sylvia Raphael was one such operative, but her story carries a more tragic hue. After years of successful missions, her identity was eventually exposed, transforming her from an invisible operative into the centerpiece of a global scandal. The incident known as the Lillehammer Affair shook not only Mossad, but also the world of international politics. It raised questions. Can a spy ever fully separate themselves from their personal life? And when that line blurs, is she still a woman or merely a weapon of war? Sylvia's story is not just a chapter in espionage history, but a tale of the struggle between loyalty and the yearning for personal happiness, between duty and survival. It all began in her early days in South Africa, where the seeds of loyalty and determination were sown. At childhood, the seeds of loyalty. To understand why a woman would plunge into a world of danger and deception, we must return to her origins, the quiet town of Graaff-Reinet in South Africa, where Sylvia Raphael was born in 1937. This was a far cry from the world one might associate with a spy. No bustling streets of Paris or mysterious alleys of Tel Aviv, only rolling hills, sprawling fields, and an endless blue sky. Sylvia's childhood was a tug-of-war between two worlds. Her father, a Jew who had survived the bloody pogroms in Ukraine, shaped her with a profound sense of ethnic identity and the injustices endured by the Jewish people. He encouraged her to think critically, and always remember her roots. From a young age, Sylvia was captivated by stories of the Holocaust and Zionism, learning about a resilient people who overcame immense hardship to reclaim their homeland. In contrast, her mother, a devout Christian, was deeply religious and strict. She taught Sylvia humility, faith, and peace. She wanted her daughter to lead a simple, pious life, far from the world's chaos. The conflict between her parents created a silent battle within Sylvia's young soul. One side called her to her ancestral roots and a greater purpose, while the other offered the warmth and safety of family life. Sylvia grew up with a conflicted heart. She was an intelligent, curious girl with an insatiable appetite for reading. She devoured everything from Jewish history to international politics. Yet in her community, she always felt like an outsider. According to religious law, she was not recognized as Jewish because her mother was not. This subtle discrimination stung her pride, igniting a fire within her, a fierce desire to prove herself. She didn't want to be a mere observer. She wanted to act. In 1963, at the age of 26, Sylvia made a life-altering decision. She left South Africa and moved to Israel. At the time, she was a teacher with a stable future, but she felt her life in her homeland was too confining. She wanted to breathe the air of the land she had studied and revered since childhood. Upon arriving in Israel, Sylvia volunteered at a kibbutz, Ramat HaKovesh, a collective agricultural community. There, she immersed herself in the lives of the workers. She learned Hebrew, worked the fields, and dedicated herself to the community. Sylvia didn't just show diligence. She radiated an extraordinary energy and rare determination. She was the first to rise and the last to leave the fields, never complaining, never tiring, always ready to help others. Her passion, unwavering loyalty, and remarkable adaptability caught the attention of certain individuals, sharp-eyed Mossad recruiters, always on the lookout for potential operatives. They observed her from afar, evaluating her every gesture and word. They saw in Sylvia not only intelligence and courage, but also a burning desire to serve Israel, a prerequisite for anyone hoping to join their secretive ranks. They approached her, and Sylvia accepted. She had found the purpose of her life, an answer to the internal conflict between the two worlds she had lived in since childhood. From a teacher in South Africa, she embarked on a journey to become one of Israel's greatest spies, a path that would take her from lush fields to dangerous streets, from the deepest secrets to a tragic yet glorious end. After years of wrestling with her dual identity, Sylvia Raphael finally found a higher purpose in Israel. No longer an ordinary teacher, her journey was about to enter a new chapter, one filled with challenges and secrets. Discernment and training, forging a lethal weapon. One quiet morning at the kibbutz, Sylvia received an unexpected call, an invitation to a special interview. Unbeknownst to her, she had been watched and evaluated for months. Mossad's keen observers had seen in her not only loyalty, but also a sharp mind and an iron will. She was a new Israeli, yet she carried the cultural diversity of South Africa, fluency in multiple languages, and extraordinary intelligence qualities they needed. Mossad's recruitment process was not for the faint of heart. It wasn't a typical interview, but a series of grueling psychological and physical challenges designed to push candidates to their limits. Sylvia was brought to a safe house in Tel Aviv, where she was interrogated about every facet of her life, from her childhood to her deepest thoughts. They searched for inconsistencies in her words, fear in her eyes, or any sign of weakness. One infamous test was called the bus test. Sylvia was asked to sit on a bus and memorize every detail about the people around her, the color of a shirt, the brand of a watch, even the shade of lipstick worn by a woman at the back. Later, she had to recall everything perfectly. Another time, she was taken to an unfamiliar neighborhood, given a false identity, and tasked with playing a lost tourist. The goal was to see how she handled pressure and maintained her cover. Sylvia passed every test with astonishing composure. Her memory was razor-sharp, her observational skills extraordinary. Sylvia's excellence wasn't limited to intellect. She had a natural gift for languages. Beyond English, Afrikaans, and Hebrew, she quickly mastered Arabic and French. This allowed her to seamlessly assume identities like a Canadian in Paris, a Scandinavian in Europe, or a local in the Middle East. Each language gave her a new cover, a new life, to conceal her true identity. After passing the tests, Sylvia entered intensive training. Her instructor was Abraham Gammer, a seasoned operative with a fearsome reputation for discipline. Gammer didn't just teach Sylvia skills, he taught her how to live and think like a spy. The training wasn't just physical, it covered everything from psychology and disguise to cryptography, radio communication, martial arts, and survival skills. Sylvia learned to vanish into a crowd, decode messages using simple numbers, and use a camera not just for photos, but for sending secret messages. Most crucially, she learned to build and maintain a false identity. Her first cover was Patricia Roxboro, a Canadian photojournalist living in Paris. This wasn't just a name, but an entire life story, complete with hobbies, memories, and habits. Patricia Roxboro loved to travel, was passionate about photography, and cared about social issues. She lived a life entirely separate from Sylvia Raphael, the woman who had once struggled with her identity. Now she had not one, but two lives, each with its own purpose. Sylvia Raphael, the teacher from South Africa, vanished. In her place emerged an invisible operative, a woman honed into a perfect weapon. She was ready for her first missions, stepping into a dangerous underworld where every step, every word, and every smile could mean the difference between life and death. A double life, living between secrets and covers. In the world of espionage, every breath is a lie, every glance a disguise. Sylvia Raphael was no longer the Sylvia of the kibbutz. She was Patricia Roxboro, a freelance Canadian photojournalist living in Paris with a small rented apartment and a camera always at the ready. Under this new identity, she embarked on her first missions, where the line between her real life and her cover became blurrier than ever. The cover of Patricia Roxboro wasn't just a name, it was a meticulously crafted story down to the smallest details. Patricia was an independent, confident woman, passionate about photographing protests, slums, and humanitarian crises. She spent hours walking through Arab neighborhoods in Paris, chatting with immigrants, sipping coffee at modest cafes, and taking photos published in European newspapers. These photos not only reinforced her cover, but also helped her infiltrate communities Mossad wanted to monitor. This double life was fraught with loneliness and tension. On the surface, Patricia was sociable with many connections. But inside, Sylvia was always on high alert. She had no real friends, no family to confide in. Every conversation, every relationship had a purpose carefully planned by Mossad. She had to remember that a single slip could lead to failure or worse, death. Her apartment wasn't a home, but a secret communication hub. Her camera wasn't just for photos, but a tool for encoding and sending messages. One of Sylvia's missions was to build relationships with activists and key figures in Arab communities in Europe. With her charm and sharp intellect, she easily approached targets, listened to their stories, and gathered valuable intelligence. She didn't just use her beauty, but also her wit, and feigned empathy to gain trust. It was a psychological battle where she had to play her role so perfectly that even she sometimes lost track of who she was. In this world of deception, Sylvia found a rare moment of truth. She met Hans, another Mossad operative. Their relationship wasn't like a romantic fairy tale, just brief encounters in hotels, hurried walks together. But for two people living in a world of shadows, it was a priceless comfort. They understood each other without words, sharing the burden of secrets and loneliness. But Mossad disapproved. Emotions were a weakness, and a spy could not afford weaknesses. They ordered Sylvia and Hans to cut all contact, prioritizing duty above all. Sylvia complied, but her heart was wounded. She continued her missions from Paris to Rome, London to Vienna, always ready to confront Israel's most dangerous enemies. She became one of Mossad's most effective operatives, an invisible shadow, a woman shrouded in mystery. But a spy's life always carries a spark waiting to ignite. Everything has its limits, and for Sylvia, the Munich massacre of 1972 set that spark ablaze. The tragedy changed everything, thrusting her into a high-stakes mission that would ultimately expose all her secrets, transforming her from a silent hero into a victim of fate. That's when Sylvia Raphael's true story began, and the name Patricia Roxboro faded into a distant memory. After being forged into a perfect weapon, Sylvia Raphael was ready for her most dangerous mission. This wasn't just an intelligence operation, it was a vendetta, a response to a wound that the entire nation of Israel bore. Climax: the Lillehammer, killing and the fatal mistake. Sylvia's life changed forever on September 5, 1972, when the world watched in horror as the Munich massacre unfolded. During the Olympic Games, members of the terrorist group Black September stormed the Israeli athletes' quarters, taking hostages and brutally murdering 11 of them. The event was not only a shock, but a stain on history that could not be erased. Israel vowed revenge. Prime Minister Golda Meir authorized Mossad to launch Operation Wrath of God, a relentless hunt to track down and eliminate everyone involved in the massacre. The primary target was Ali Hassan Salami, known as the Red Prince, the mastermind behind Black September. Salami was elusive, intelligent, charismatic, and constantly on the move. He slipped through European cities, changing identities and covers continuously. Sylvia, with her disguise skills and language proficiency, was tasked with tracking him. She came close to him several times in Paris and Vienna, but never had the chance to strike. In the summer of 1973, Mossad received a breakthrough tip. An operative reported that Salami had been spotted in Lillehammer, a small peaceful town in Norway, an unexpected location. Mossad agents, including Sylvia, converged on the town to verify the intelligence. They set up a secret base, monitored the target, and prepared for a swift strike. On Friday, July 20th, 1973, the Mossad team believed they had identified Salami. A man matching his description, curly hair, a beard, was seen walking with a pregnant woman. The profile seemed to fit perfectly. Sylvia and a teammate followed the man into a movie theater. Later that night, as the man and woman walked home, the Mossad team acted. This was the moment the fatal mistake occurred. In a critical split-second decision, the team acted without final confirmation of the target's identity. They shot the man dead on the street in front of his horrified pregnant wife. But the man was not Ali Hassan Salami. He was Ahmed Bouchiki, an innocent Moroccan waiter and brother of a well-known jazz musician with no connection to terrorism or the Munich massacre. The assassination sent shockwaves through Norway. The local police launched an immediate investigation. Sylvia and her team tried to flee the country covertly, but they were too slow. Norwegian police, unaccustomed to foreign intelligence operations, picked up on suspicious clues: phone calls, rented cars, and safe houses. One agent was caught trying to board a flight, followed by others. Sylvia was arrested in a safe house, her Patricia Roxboro cover blown. The news spread worldwide. The international press labeled Mossad a terrorist organization, and Sylvia an Israeli assassin. The name Sylvia Raphael, hidden in secrecy for years, now dominated headlines. Mossad's operation had failed catastrophically, sparking a major diplomatic crisis. They had sought revenge but killed an innocent man. And Sylvia paid the price for that mistake. Her life took a new turn from an invisible operative to an exposed prisoner. Now she faced a new battle, not on the intelligence battlefield, but in a courtroom. Now prison and a fated love, finding peace amid turmoil. The prison in Norway wasn't what one might imagine for a criminal. For Sylvia Raphael, it resembled a small apartment more than a cell with basic amenities. Yet no physical comfort could ease her emotional pain. Imprisoned, she was utterly alone, cut off from the world she had devoted her life to. Each day she could only gaze out the window, reflecting on the mistakes made, the missions completed, and her burning desire to live a normal life, free of secrets. The legal pressure on Sylvia was immense. She faced serious charges of murder and espionage. The world watched every trial, waiting to see how Israel would respond. But Israel denied any involvement, and Mossad could not publicly aid her. Sylvia, once their sharpest weapon, was left to fend for herself. Then, a man entered her life not as a spy, but as a lawyer. His name was Annæus Schjødt, a dedicated Norwegian attorney assigned to defend her. Initially, their relationship was purely professional, between a defendant and her counsel. He listened to her story, not just about Lillehammer, but about her life as a spy, her loneliness, and her inner conflicts. Gradually, something unexpected happened. Professionalism gave way to empathy, and then to love. Schjødt didn't see Sylvia as the Israeli assassin the media branded her. He saw a wounded woman who had sacrificed everything for a higher cause and was now paying for a mistake not entirely her own. He became her sole emotional anchor, helping her through her darkest days. They talked about everything from complex legal matters to the simple joys of life. Their love blossomed amid chaos and tragedy, proving that even in prison love could take root. Sylvia's legal battle was protracted. She was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison, but thanks to good behavior and discreet diplomatic pressure from Israel, she was released after just over 2 years. That time allowed her to rediscover herself. She found a life partner who accepted her past and loved her for who she truly was, not her cover. After her release, Sylvia didn't return to Israel immediately. She stayed in Norway, the country where she had caused her life's greatest tragedy. And there she did the unthinkable. She married Annæus Schjødt. Their marriage was a modern fairy tale proof that love could overcome barriers of law, politics, or secrets. Sylvia, who had lived a life of lies, finally found truth in love and peace with her husband. She left the spy world forever, embracing the simple, quiet life she had always longed for. But could someone who had lived in secrecy ever truly escape its shadow? The answer would come in her final years as she faced her legacy and her mortality. One legacy life after the shadows and silent glory. After her marriage, Sylvia Raphael left everything behind to live the simple life she had always craved. With her beloved husband Annæus Schjødt, she returned to Israel. Mossad offered her an administrative role as a gesture of gratitude for her sacrifices, but Sylvia declined. She wanted no part of the world of secrets, covers, and lies. Instead, she chose a peaceful, unassuming life. In Tel Aviv, Sylvia and Annæus lived, simply avoiding the spotlight. She engaged in social work, teaching, translating, and helping new immigrants to Israel. Her life, once defined by intelligence operations targets and threats, was now filled with acts of kindness and meaningful work. She had found a new purpose, a way to serve her country without carrying a gun or a false identity. Though she had left espionage behind, Sylvia could never fully escape its shadow. After years of peaceful living, cancer struck. Her health declined, but her spirit remained strong. In her final years, she witnessed a significant event in 1979. Her old target, Ali Hassan Salameh, was finally eliminated by Mossad in a car bombing in Beirut. Though she didn't directly participate, his death closed an unfinished chapter of her story. It was proof that despite her failure in one mission, her efforts were part of a larger ongoing Israeli vendetta. Sylvia Raphael passed away in 2005 at the age of 68. She was buried in Israel in a small cemetery in Herzliya, far from the world's noise. Hundreds attended her funeral, including former Mossad operatives who had fought alongside her and others who knew her only through stories. To them, Sylvia was more than a spy. She was a legend, a symbol of loyalty, strength, and sacrifice. Her legacy lies not only in her successful missions, but in her very life. It serves as a reminder that even in the brutal world of espionage, there is room for humanity and the pursuit of happiness. Her story inspired many, including the book Sylvia Raphael, The Life and Death of a Mossad Spy by Ram Oren, which brought her story to millions. It has been retold in documentaries and media, always portraying her as an extraordinary woman who lived two lives and ultimately found peace. So, who was Sylvia Raphael? She was a hero who fought for her beliefs. She was a victim of a deadly mistake. Above all, she was human, with fears desires, and the simplest dreams. She lived a life of secrets, but her death left a legacy of glory and openness, a testament to the strength of women in a male-dominated world. She found love, peace, and ultimately eternal rest in the land she devoted her life to. A hero, victim, or both? Sylvia Raphael's life was a series of choices and sacrifices. From an ordinary South African teacher, she became one of Mossad's greatest operatives, living a dangerous double life. The Lillehammer mission, though a tragic failure, thrust her into the spotlight, making her a legend. Yet the question remains, can someone find happiness while living with secrets? And could she truly find peace while carrying the pain of a mistake? We can see Sylvia Raphael as a hero who gave everything for her country. We can also see her as a victim paying the price for an organization's error. Or perhaps she was simply a human being who lived, loved, and sacrificed in a chaotic world. Her legacy is not just her achievements, but a story of courage, resilience, and the pursuit of happiness. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you see Sylvia Raphael as a hero, a victim, or both? Subscribe to the channel to stay updated on more thrilling espionage stories.